Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Leadership Synergized. I'm Kevin Smith. Today, I'm pleased to introduce our special guest, Dr. Mike Whitten. Dr. Whitten is currently a high school principal at Boonville High School, Boonville, Indiana, which is located right near the Ohio River on the southern tip of the state of Indiana. Dr. Whitten, my friend, it's great to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, my friend, for coming on board and representing actually someone who's been a lifelong educator, and you're at a major transition point, a transformation point, if you will, in your life. You've been a lifelong educator and a building administrator for a number of years. Before we dive in and talk about some questions and experiences you've had throughout your career in education, if you don't mind, take a moment and introduce yourself to our viewers. Who is Dr. Mike Whitten?
Dr. Mike Whitten is a Christian, is a grandpa, a happy husband of almost 40 years now, a young man in my eyes that still enjoys his job, and a whole lot of days don't even call it a job. I just get the opportunity to come in and work with great people and try to do great things for kids. It's always been said that you're the culmination of 10 or 11 or 12 of your most closest friends. And the opportunities that I've had, I feel like I'm the culminations of hundreds of people. Been influenced by a lot of folks in a lot of ways. As a leader, I get that opportunity to hire folks into my building who have some similar characteristics and beliefs as I, and then some that don't, and look at those as opportunities to grow and be a better person. But this is my 38th year in education. I am going to be retiring after 21 years here at Boonville High School, the longest. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but longest serving principal in the 150-year history of the school. Been a high school principal a year before that, middle school principal, assistant principal for about 5 or 6 years, and then was in the classroom for 11 years. Was a math teacher at middle school, high school level, coached cross country, basketball, baseball, track, sponsored fellowship Christian athletes. Way back in the day, drove a school bus. And education's been absolutely a big part of my life.
38 years. Congratulations, my friend. What a wonderful experience and career you've had. 21 years as an administrator there at the high school. So Boonville, the Boonville Pioneers, what led you to Boonville?
You know what? It goes back to former administrators, the former superintendent that we had here, and some central office folks saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I can remember still to this day standing in a classroom talking to another teacher 27, 28 years ago and saying, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something different. Didn't know what it was, but applied for a position at a school and didn't get it. And the reason being, I didn't have any experience. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I did figure out that if I didn't get any experience, I was never going to get into administration there. So started applying other places. Gentleman took a chance on me a long time ago as an assistant principal, and things have moved forward from there.
What led you to education?
There again, family experience. Christmas a long time ago, young kid. And as young kids are, just at Christmas time especially, you're just running around doing your own thing. And they are still living. Two cousins who wanted to spend time with me just playing around. I was too young. I don't know, 8 or 9 years old at that time. And I didn't want to do that. I remember my mom and dad telling me both, hey, they want to spend time with you. They want to invest in you. They want to share some experiences with you. And even though it really didn't have anything to do with education, that message of investing in somebody else, giving of your time to somebody else, to build a relationship there with somebody else, I think that's the message that I got from that conversation. The way to do that, in my eyes, was to get into education. I was a former high school athlete, tried a little bit of college ball, didn't work out, but wanted to get into athletics and felt like the education route was the way to go about doing that. Had an interest in math, pretty good at that, and putting all those things together, I think that's what led me to where I am.
Before we dive further into Dr. Mike Whitten, the individual, the leader, the educator, the grandpa, the husband, a lot of positive things there to build upon. Talk a little bit to us about Boonville and Boonville High School. There's a long legacy there. You mentioned 150 years of the school.
Yeah, when I came, even though I'm a math person, I got into the history of the school, wanted to know as much as I could about it. Actually, at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of history. There was a lot of people that knew some things. And so had the opportunity to sit down with some of the older folks in the community at that time and just listen to some of the stories that they had to tell. Well, high school is one of the 5 oldest continuous high schools in the state of Indiana. We'll have our 150th graduating class this spring. And through those years, a lot of different buildings, obviously, over that time, but the name Boonville High School has continued on through all of that process. A lot of interesting people have come through over the years. We have a former governor that was a graduate of Boonville High School. That was way back in the day, but a graduate of Boonville High School. We've had military generals and leaders in those various branches of service. Got some incredible doctors, lawyers, a wide variety of different occupations through the years. We're a school of about 900 students. The largest we've ever been in the history of the school was about 1,050. The smallest we've ever been is about 850, but we usually are always right around that 900 mark. We are about 96% Caucasian. We are about 35% free and reduced in special ed. I have a staff of 60 certified staff members, and then about another 55 support staff. That's counting cafeteria maintenance, custodian, program assistants, clerical staff, all of those folks. The town of Boonville itself is about 6,000 or 7,000 folks. We're about 15 miles east of Evansville. And while we are blue collar, we do have a few white collar folks that work in Evansville, and then we're a little bit of a bed and breakfast. We are the oldest school, obviously, in the county. There are 2 other high schools here. One is got about 250, 300 kids in it. And then we have another high school that has close to 2,000 in it. So we're one of 3 high schools, and then we're one of 19 different buildings: middle school, elementary, and then high school.
And that's a part of, when you say one of, that's a part of the Warwick County School Corporation.
Warwick County School Corporation.
Dr. Whitten, if I were to ask you what's the one thing you're most proud of, that would be a difficult question to answer, I would think.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Gosh, we've done a lot of things that I'm really proud of over the years. I think the one thing, though, that stands out most to me, and the one thing that I'm probably going to miss the most, is the culture that we have here. When you've been around as long as I have, you get to hire those folks who have a lot of similar beliefs. And there's a whole lot of days that it's not a job. You get to come and you get to be with your friends, with those people who you've shared some good and some not so good experiences with over the years. And I think that culture translates to our students. I think our kids, whether they will admit it or not, know that there are people in this building who genuinely care about them. We just recently, even though I'm leaving, I'm trying to lead the group through the multi-tier system of support, MTSS. And one aspect of that is our social emotional learning component. And just had our SEL team do a survey of our kids, about 900 kids. And we just asked them 2 questions. Number one, do you feel like you've got somebody in the building, an adult in this building, that you can talk with? That can be a coach, it can be a custodian, it can be a cafeteria worker, secretary, principal, whoever. And then the second question was either yes or no to that. And the second question was, if yes, then let us know who that person is. Of the 900 kids we've got, we had 41 kids say that they didn't really feel like they had anybody they could talk with. As a leader, I'm concerned about those 41 kids. But at the same time, I also have to look at the fact that there's 859 kids who do feel like they've got somebody they can talk to. And so in terms of what's most special to me, what do I take the most pride in? I think it's that we've got 90% of our kids who really feel like they've got somebody that they can talk with.
Culture is an interesting topic to discuss. Some of my favorite discussions are when I'm engaged with others around culture. In particular, we tend to get into discussions on organizational culture. And there's philosophies out there that an organization has a culture, an organization can have a culture. But you mentioned the individuals, the like beliefs in those pieces. And I have come throughout my career and experience to support Dr. Stephen Covey. I'll paraphrase a bit that organizations don't have cultures because culture lies in each individual that's brought into a company or an organization. Talk a bit about your experience in what has led to the development of that culture during your 41 years as or 21 years, I should say, excuse me, as the building principal.
Some days it feels like 41.
I
Um,
wasn't trying to add to
you
your
know,
age, by the way.
I think it really goes back to the experiences I had growing up and the belief system that was in my home when I was growing up. And I believe too that there are a lot of different ways to lead. There are a lot of different ways to lead. And I'm not saying that mine's the best. I do feel like, given the longevity of my tenure, that my leadership style has been and is what's important for this community. Would my leadership style work at one of the other high schools? I don't know. Maybe it would. Would somebody else's leadership style coming in here work better? It possibly could. So I'm not saying that the way I do things is the best way to do something. Absolutely not. But I do feel like you grow up, your high school years, your college years, you start to develop this belief system of what's important and what's not. And not that it can't change, it absolutely needs to change, it needs to evolve. But I think part of leadership is driving the bus. And one bus may turn this way and one bus may turn another way. And whoever, wherever you feel like is the most important place to go, you need to get those people on the bus and have them going there with you. And that's, to me, that's based on your value system, those beliefs that you have, and those core values, what's important and what's not. I think it's important to do that as well. You have to guard your culture a little bit. And I really don't, and I tell people this in my interview, I don't want to hire somebody that's a yes person. I don't want them to agree with every single thing I do, because then you can get stagnant. I can be wrong. I need somebody to question my beliefs or my decisions on something. And maybe I change my opinion on the way we do something. I do think, too, with culture, one of the things that has created a strong culture here is I listen to people. God gave you two ears and one mouth, and that ought to tell you something. And I listen to my folks and ask a lot of questions and make sure that I understand what they're going through or what their concerns are, and take that information. And is it, again, with the bus, is it going to get us where we want to go or not? And if it's not, then I have to have that tough conversation about, this isn't where we need to go. I don't think this is what's best for us. But at the same time, if they do give me their opinion or they do give me their idea and it's awesome, I give them full credit for it. We start every one of our faculty meetings with a little raise the praise thing. And I'm giving them credit for stuff like that, because I want to create that culture where if somebody's got an idea, then I'm absolutely going to listen to it and I'm going to give them credit for it. I'm going to get a little emotional about this. But the other part of being a leader too, if they come to me with an idea and we try it and it tanks, I mean, it's lead balloons, it's terrible, I take responsibility for that. I'm not going to throw them under the bus about it. You know, they came to me with the idea. I didn't follow through with it the way it should have been followed through, whatever phrasing I need to use with that. But going back to coaching and athletics a little bit, the kids win all the games and the coaches lose them all. So
Having coached, I can resemble the losing part in that piece. Absolutely correct. And yeah, as we're talking culture, and I really hear embedded, and you mentioned the values. Really, cultural all depends on the level of character, the trust that's built and represented and modeled, and probably more. And this is the first time through listening to you, Dr. Whitten. So thank you for this. That it comes to me, and it came to me while I was listening. Culture is challenged every day within an organization, within a person, within a group of people. And maybe it would be safe to say culture is challenged every moment.
absolutely, absolutely. And again, I'm not saying that our culture is best. I'm not saying that our culture would work in every single community, but I do feel like when you value people's opinions. You give, as a leader, you give them your time. You listen to what they have to say. I really think in all my years, that's really what people want. They just want to be heard. They want to have a chance to express their opinions and then to respectfully agree or disagree with whatever those things are. And then you move forward. In all of my years, I've seen a lot of things come and go. And I've told folks before that I always used to hear that phrase, the pendulum would swing from one side to the other. Sometimes I feel like the pendulum broke and it's just swinging and just kept on going. But just because I think you do have to change, but I don't think you can change just for the sake of changing. If you lose sight of those core values and beliefs that you have, you can lose yourself and you can lose that culture. And so I do think you have to guard those things. Unfortunately, in public education, from where I'm standing, I cannot speak to private education. I've never been a part of any private corporation. From a public standpoint, when you have political interests, when you have social interests, you absolutely have to be respectful of those kinds of things. But I think you also have to be clear about where you stand on issues, not to the point of being disrespectful or degrading somebody in any way, but letting people know that this is who we are and this is what we believe. Now, one of you asked me to tell you who I was, and the first thing I said was I was a Christian. And there are times that my Christian beliefs, my personal beliefs, can get in the way of my professional beliefs, and that can cause some sleepless nights about which direction to go and how to handle situations like that. Yes, it is always constant of guarding what's there. And I think too, in a couple more months, I'm going to be retiring. And I've had some people ask, how do I want to be remembered? And I really want to be remembered as somebody who did what was best for kids and did what was best for my staff and did what was best for this community. And that means looking at a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different beliefs and weighing those against your own. I used to use the phrase and still do on occasion, you have to be comfortable in the gray. There is no black and white in this world anymore. There are absolutes. Personally, there are absolutes, but you have to be comfortable as a leader living in the gray. And sometimes that gray is very light colored and sometimes that gray is very dark colored. But you have to find that comfort zone.
Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom in this episode, Dr. Whitten, and appreciate very much you agreeing to stick around as we continue next week and pick up on this discussion. But certainly your words of wisdom in the area of culture stand out and resonate, quite frankly. It's something that when one thinks of organizational vision or even personal vision, it ties very much into culture, how we live our lives, what we intend to represent within our lives in that regard. And we'll pick up more and talk about Dr. Whitten and where he's at in his transition of life. And I want to share just a couple of things that I've taken away. You and I have known of each other for quite a while, but the past few years worked closely together in a regard. And I just want to share that. And we'll jump in at the very first of next week's episodes. Thank you, my friend, for taking the time to be with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening and viewing, and I hope you picked up a nugget of sorts you can use in your development, wherever you might be, as you develop your personal and leadership toolbox. For our special guest, Dr. Mike Whitten, I'm Kevin Smith. Remember, still moves us forward. God bless you. We appreciate you.